Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So today we have a beautiful section of the 12th chapter where we're going to hear the wonderful glories of hearing and chanting about Krishna, and also Krishna's glories, and specifically about Srimad Bhagavatam also. It's a nice section. You can pay attention, and these sort of glories when we hear and we absorb into our heart, then this will help us to prioritize chanting and hearing in our life. Yeah. So while Harinam Kirtan Prabhu reads, please pay attention. Yeah. Harinam Kirtan Prabhu, when you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji. You check if you can mute or not. You're able to unmute. Check. Yeah, you should be able to unmute. I can hear you now, Prabhu. Yes.
Just a minute. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chiva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasa Tato Jayamudiraye Nastyaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Rashtiki. We are reading from Canto 12, Chapter 12, text 47 onwards. If when failing, slipping, feeling pain or sneezing, one involuntarily cries out in a loud voice, obeisances to Lord Hari, one will be automatically freed from all his sinful reactions. 48. When people properly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead or simply hear about His power, the Lord personally enters their hearts and cleans away every trace of misfortune. Just as the sun removes the darkness or as a powerful wind drives away the clouds. Words that do not describe the transcendental personality of Godhead, but instead deal with temporary matters, are simply false and useless. Only those words that manifest the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord are actually truthful, auspicious, and pious. Text 50. Those words describing the glories of the all-famous personality of Godhead are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. Indeed, such words are a perpetual festival for the mind, and they dry up the ocean of misery. Text 51. Those words that do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows, and are never resorted to by those situated in the transcendental knowledge. The pure and saintly devotee take interest only in topics glorifying the infallible Supreme Lord. Text 52. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of description of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, and so on of the unlimited Supreme Lord, as a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed towards bringing about revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Text 53. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of infallible God. What then is the use of even the most properly performed fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Text 54. The great endeavor one undergoes in executing the ordinary social and religious duties of the Varnashram system and performing austerities and in hearing from the Vedas culminates only in the achievement of mundane fame and opulence. But by respecting and attentively hearing the recitation of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord, the husband of the goddess of fortune, one can remember his lotus feet. Text 55. Remembrance of Lord Krishna's lotus feet destroy everything inauspicious and awards the greatest good fortune. It purifies the heart and bestows devotion for the Supreme Soul, along with knowledge enriched with realization and renunciation. Text 56. O most eminent of Brahmanas, you are all indeed extremely fortunate, since you have already placed within your heart Lord Sri Narayan, the personality of Godhead, supreme controller, and the ultimate soul of all existence, beyond whom there is no other God. You have undeviating love for him, and thus I request you to worship him. Text 57. I also have now been fully reminded of the science of God, which I previously heard from the mouth of the great sage Sukadeva Goswami. I was present in the assembly of great sages who heard him speak to King Parikshit as the monarch sat fasting until death. Text 58. O Brahmanas, I have thus described to you the glories of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, whose extraordinary activities are most worthy of glorification. This narration destroys all that is inauspicious. Text 59. One who, with undeviating attention, constantly recites this literature at every moment of every hour, as well as one who faithfully hears even one verse or half a verse or a single line or even half a line, certainly purifies his very self. Text 60. One who hears this Bhagavatam on the Ekadashi or Dwadashi day is assured of long life, and one who recites it with careful attention while fasting is purified of all sinful reactions. Text 61. One who controls his mind fast at the holy places Pushkara, Mathura, or Dwarka, and study this scripture will be freed from all fear. Text 62. Upon the person who glorifies the Purana by chanting or hearing it, the demigods, sages, Siddha, Pitas, Manu, and King of the earth bestow all desirable things. Text 63. By studying this Bhagavatam, a Brahmana can enjoy the same rivers of honey, ghee, and milk he enjoys by studying the hymns of the Rig, Yajur, and Samaveda. Text 64. A Brahmana who diligently reads this essential compilation of all the Puranas will go to the supreme destination, which the Supreme Lord himself has herein described. Text 65. A Brahmana who studies the Srimad Bhagavatam achieves firm intelligence in devotional service. A king who studied it gains sovereignty over the earth. A Vaishya acquires great treasure, and the Shudra is freed from all sinful reaction. Text 66. Lord Hari, the supreme controller of all beings, inhaliates the accumulated sins of the Kali age. Yet other literature do not constantly glorify him. But that supreme personality of Godhead, appearing in his innumerable personal expansion, is abundantly and constantly described throughout the various narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 67. I bow down to that unborn and infinite Supreme Soul, whose personal energies affect the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material universe. Even Brahma, Indra, Shankara, and the other lords of the heavenly planets cannot fathom the glories of that infallible personality of Godhead. Text 68. I offer my obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the eternal Lord and the leader of all other deities, who by evolving his 9 material energies, has arranged within himself the abode of all moving and non-moving creatures, and who is always situated in pure transcendental consciousness. Text 69. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the son of Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami. It is he who defeats all inauspicious things within this universe. Although in the beginning he was absorbed in the happiness of Brahman realization and was living in a secluded place, giving up all other type of consciousness, he became attracted by the pleasing, most melodious pastime of Lord Sri Krishna. He therefore mercifully spoke the supreme Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a bright light of the absolute truth and which describes the activities of the Lord. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Arnab Kirtan Prabhuji. So it's a wonderful section. So where we are ending towards the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's one more chapter after this. Essentially, Sudha Goswami summarized what he has described so far in Srimad Bhagavatam in all the 12 cantos, and then now is glorifying the power of chanting about Krishna's glories, the power of hearing about Krishna's glories, and specifically the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam also. So like I was describing, these sections are very important for us. So if you absorb them into our heart, then this will help us to change our values that we conduct our life with. So what we value currently is based on how we spend our time, how we prioritize things, how we make decisions in life, like that, right? So now when we understand the value of hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna, then we prioritize that in our life, in every day, and then we make time for it, and we put our energy and enthusiasm for it, and give the best place, best time for this process also for us in our life, chanting and hearing. So with that, let us go to the verses. So 47th to 50th verse are describing your potency of Krishna's names, pastimes, and Srimad Bhagavatam also. So the first verse is saying that even if some accidentally, casually, while falling down from a building, or when slipping down, or when feeling pain, oh my God, it's so painful, Krishna, like that, or when sneezing, many of us from India, we've seen that culture, like whenever we sneeze, we say the holy name, Krishna, Govinda, like that. So then one cries out loudly, obeisances to Lord Hari, like that. So then one will be automatically be freed from all his sinful reactions. So the emphasis in this verse is, if somebody is doing it just accidentally, casually, like with one of these activities, then they're getting so much benefit of all sinful reactions are going away. Then if we as practicing devotees, if we do this with more faith on the holy name, more faith in the Shravanam and Kirtanam process, then how much more valuable it is, like that we can understand from this. Purport has Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur commentary. He says, Lord Chaitanya is always chanting loudly. Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, that's what is referred. Then that Lord Chaitanya will free us from all materialistic enjoyment propensity that we have, if we also loudly chant the glories of Supreme Lord Hari, like that. So that is the glories of the chanting. Here is described in this verse. So remember, the glories of chanting doesn't mean only the names of the holy name, names are the holy names only, but also means qualities, pastimes of Supreme Lord, like reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavad Gita, like that also. Now going to the next verse, 48th verse, Sudha Goswami is describing when people properly glorify the Supreme Lord, or simply hear about his power. So either we glorify or speak, or we hear. Both are the same potency. The Lord personally enters their hearts and cleans away every trace of misfortune. Analogy is given just like sun removes it. As soon as sun comes in the morning, all darkness goes away. Or as soon as a powerful wind comes, all the wind can drive the clouds here and there like that. So basically, uh, either by glorifying Krishna through speaking or glorifying Krishna by hearing, all our inauspiciousness can go away basically. And why? Because Krishna personally is entering the heart and doing that for us. We heard this instruction in the second canto also, how Krishna does this personally by entering the heart like that. So basically the point is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says on the commentary for this verse, that when he says heart is cleansed of the misfortune, heart is cleansed of illusion, like that, what is happening is the propensity for karma and gnana are removed from the heart. Remember, our pure devotion service needs to be free of this influence of the karma and gnana. Anya bilashita sunyam, gnana karmadi anavrutam. Like that, right? That's why this hearing process helps us. Chanting and hearing process of Srimad Bhagavatam or any Krishna Katha and holy name will help us to purify our heart so that we can be situated in pure devotion service like that. And then, and then our Acharyas also says, Krishna purifies our hearts if we are eager to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we need to develop that eagerness to hear. Then Krishna clears our heart like that. And then text 49 describes that the words that are not describing Krishna, but instead dealing with temporary matters, are simply false and useless. It's a contrasting principle. However, those words that manifest the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord are actually truthful, auspicious, and pious. So Krishna Katha, when spoken or heard, is very auspicious, truthful, and pious for everybody. So Jiva Goswami writes in this commentary for this verse that why is it auspicious? Because when hearing Krishna Katha or speaking Krishna Katha, it manifests Krishna's glories in our heart. And that when Krishna's glories are manifested in our heart, that produces attraction or rati for Krishna. So that's why it's very auspicious, Jiva Goswami writes. So in fact, Sutta Goswami is trying to mention that the conclusion of whole Srimad Bhagavatam is one should glorify Krishna. That glorifying Krishna can be done different ways. Commonly we hear about Shravanam Kirtanam. By hearing we can glorify Krishna, or by speaking we can glorify Krishna. There's the name, qualities, pastimes, form like that, right? But other ways of glorifying Krishna can also mean doing some service, physical service, their body, mind, words to the Krishna and to Vaishnavas also. That's the other ways of glorifying. But the primary method starts with Shravanam Kirtanam. With that, we get some faith in serving. With that, we get the faith in chanting the holy name. And then we follow like that from Shravanam. So basically, just the transcendental descriptions of Krishna can free us from bondage of illusion and restore us to eternal status of loving servants of Krishna. So that loving feelings will arise just by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam like that. Now going to the next 50th verse. Interestingly, this verse, let me see. Yeah, correct. Not this verse, next verse. Okay. Yeah, this verse, it says, those words describing the glories of Krishna are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. And indeed, such words are a perpetual festival for the mind, and they drive the ocean of misery. So point made here is, this is not hearing Krishna Katha is not mundane, it's difficult to hear like that. It's actually attractive. We can relish it. And then it's ever fresh. Even if you hear many times, it's ever fresh like that. So that's the beauty of Krishna Katha. and it brings a perpetual festival of the mind. Even when we are hearing about how Lord Rama went to the forest and struggled, Sita was taken away by Ravana, he was lamenting like that we hear. But even that brings a festival to the mind because it's transcendental topics of Krishna or Rama, like that. So transcendental topics of Supreme Lord, like that. That's why they take away all the miseries. Also is described like that. Now the next three verses um, are glorifying. Interestingly, all the three verses they're almost similar to the same verses that are given in first canto, fifth chapter. So that's why Acharya say these are like uh, these are like the bija syllables of a great mantra. So the mantra in the beginning also they come, it seems, and the end also they come, it seems. I don't know much about the bija syllables and what mantra is there. I'm just repeating what commentators are saying. Essentially, what I understood is these are very, very important. That's why they are placed in the beginning of Bhagavatam and end of the Bhagavatam also. Again, glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. So what is that? 51st verse is the same as first canto, 5th chapter, 10th verse. Almost. There is some couple of lines that are different. First two lines are exactly same, almost same. One word is different again. It says those words that do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of all animals, are considered to be unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. What is place of pilgrimage for crows? There's no purport here, but in the 5th chapter, first canto, Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport. Basically, place of pilgrimage for crows means crows don't go to a nice place. Crows go to a filthy place, like garbage, trash cans, like that. So, words that don't describe the glories of Krishna are like that. And then, yeah, those situated in transcendental knowledge, they never go to such places. That means places of pilgrimage for crows, meaning topics that don't discuss about Krishna. They don't put their time, energy, enthusiasm there like that. However, the pure and saintly devotees take interest only in topics glorifying the infallible Supreme Lord. That's the contrast made. Saintly, this is a glorifying the supreme position of devotees who like to hear Krishna Katha, who like to glorify Krishna like that. So next verse, many of you might remember, Sri Prabhupada places this in preface of Srimad Bhagavatam, I think, in every canto. Tadvag Visargo Janataga Samplavo. In the first canto, 5th chapter, the word Samplavo is replaced with Viplavo like that. But both are same, revolution. Yasmin Pratislokam Abadhavati Api Namani Anantasya Yasho Ankitani Yat Srinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadavaha. This also repeats from first canto, 5th chapter. So he's saying the literature, which is full of descriptions of transcendental glories of the Krishna, Supreme Lord's fame, name, form, pastimes, is a different creation, and it brings revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature like the Srimad Bhagavatam, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So the point here is, Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport in first canto, 5th chapter for this verse. Essentially, somebody might have made a very wonderful composition, but it doesn't talk about Krishna at all, talk about Supreme Lord at all, doesn't talk about devotion service. Then that is useless. Whereas something is attempting to talk about Supreme Lord. Sometimes somebody may glorify Supreme Lord in an incorrect way. Somebody may glorify Supreme Lord with a lot of mistakes. Somebody may glorify Supreme Lord perfectly. Doesn't matter whether it's done with perfection or done with some faults. Still, that is more beneficial. That is very helpful. That will that is taken up by devotees as a nice thing like that. They don't still go to non-Krishna Katha. That is perfectly done. If it's done with mistakes, they hear Krishna Katha like that. And they sing Krishna Katha. Jiva Goswami says that singing indicates when somebody has a pleasant voice and knows the ragas, it's also good to sing like that, recite the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam like that is described. But even hearing otherwise, even that honest people go towards that. So this is emphasizing the attraction of Krishna's devotees have for the Lord's glories. And then Jiva Goswami writes on this verse that glorification of Krishna destroys sins of everyone, not only the person who is hearing, person who is reading, or a person who is speaking. Because Jiva Goswami says, so if somebody is there, that's why they want to glorify loudly. They'll recite loudly, they'll read loudly, they'll speak loudly, they'll keep the class loudly, like that. But if nobody is there, they will hear for themselves, read for themselves, recite for themselves, like that is described, Jiva Goswami. Because it's helpful for all, they try to benefit everybody. Now, text 53, knowledge of self-relation does not look well if it is devoid of conception of God. So even most perfectly performed karmakanda activities, fruitive activities are useless if they are not burdened for devotional service of Krishna as described. So then that covers the 3 verses that repeated from first and 5th chapter, 10 to 12 verses. Now going to 54th verse. Now the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. He's saying, even somebody does great endeavor to perform all the prescribed duties in Varnashrama nicely, then they will only result in achievement of mundane fame and opulence. But by respecting and attentively hearing the recitation of transcendental qualities of Krishna, like Srimad Bhagavatam, one can remember his lotus feet. That's the benefit of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, is you can remember Krishna's lotus feet like that. Actually, that's elaborated in the next verse. 55, he says, remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet destroys everything inauspicious and awards the greatest good fortune. See, by hearing Krishna Katha, we remember Krishna's lotus feet. By remembering Krishna's lotus feet, inauspiciousness is gone and we get greatest fortune. It purifies the heart and gives the devotion for Krishna, along with knowledge, enriched with realization and renunciation, like that. And this is the main thing that comes. Jiva Goswami says, I think it's Jiva Goswami, I forgot, Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath Chakravarti. One of them says, the main gift we're getting is Prema Bhakti for Krishna, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and remembering Krishna's lotus feet, like that. And the secondary things are knowledge, jnana and vairagya. Knowledge and renunciation are secondary, that will come like that. This is the result of remembering Krishna's lotus feet, which is the result of hearing Krishna Katha, chanting Krishna Katha. That's described in the previous verse. Now the goal of this is worshipping Krishna. 56th verse says. So Sudha Goswami is glorifying the Brahmanas, saying that sages, you're all indeed extremely fortunate, since you already placed within your hearts Lord Narayana. You are undeviating love for him. And thus I request you to worship him. That's the goal. Goal of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and then goal of remembering Krishna's lotus feet is ultimately to worship Krishna. Now 57th verse, it says, both the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam and the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam both get benefited. So he's saying that I heard from Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami and I benefited so much, like that is remembering. And then 58th verse onwards, there are 7 blessings that for those who hear Srimad Bhagavatam is emphasized. First verse, 58th verse is saying, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, it destroys all that is inauspicious. 59th verse is saying that one who with undeviating attention constantly recites the Srimad Bhagavatam at every moment of every hour, that means speaker. And then as well as one who faithfully hears even one verse, even half a verse, or a single line, or even half a line, certainly purifies his very self. So both person who speaks, person who hears, even half a line, they're getting benefited like that. They get purified like that. Now text 60. One who hears this Bhagavatam on the Ekadasi or Dwadasi days is assured of long life, one benefit. And then one who recites it with careful attention while fasting is purified of all sinful reactions. And that's the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. Next one, he says, one who controls his mind, fasts at the holy places like Pushkara, Mathura, Dwarka, and studies these scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, will be freed from all fear. All fear is gone. Text 62. Person who glorifies this Srimad Bhagavatam Purana by chanting it or hearing it. If you notice, there's emphasis on either hearing or speaking. Both are equal. Both can have the same potency. By chanting or hearing it, the demigods, sages, siddhas, pitas, manus, and kings of theirs bestow all desirable things to us like that. So now next verses are 64th verse also is saying that we get the supreme destination. A Brahmana who diligently reads his essential compilation of all the Puranas will go to the supreme destination, which the Supreme Lord himself has described in this Bhagavatam. So we go to spiritual world. Now text 65. This gives some material benedictions, and Jiva Goswami says that this is done to encourage us to be eager to study Srimad Bhagavatam like that. What are the material benedictions it can give? It can give the Brahmana who studies the Srimad Bhagavatam achieves firm intelligence in devotional service. That's one spiritual benefit in one sense. Firm intelligence in devotional service. How to do devotional service nicely. A king who studies it gains sovereignty over the earth, because that's what Kshatriyas want. Kshatriyas want ruling more place, area. And a Vaishya acquires great treasure, a lot of money. And a Sudra is freed from sinful reactions like that. Now text 66. This verse glorifies the speciality of Srimad Bhagavatam among all the other Puranas like that. He says, Lord Hari annihilates the accumulated sins of the Kali Yuga. When is abundantly, when Supreme Lord is abundantly and constantly described throughout the various narrations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Bhagavatam helps us to annihilate the accumulated sins in the Kali Yuga, like that is describing. There are a lot of nice points Jiva Goswami writes in this context also. Jiva Goswami says, Supreme Lord Bhagavan's form cannot be understood through other works. Especially Srimad Bhagavatam is helpful for that. And then also Vishwanath Chakra Thakur says, Srimad Bhagavatam alone profusely glorifies Bhagavan. Meaning, sorry, it's cold here. Vishwanath Chakra Thakur says, other Puranas also glorify Supreme Lord, but little bit. But then Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies throughout so much about Krishna, Bhagavan. That is specialty of Srimad Bhagavatam. And another thing, Burijan Prabhu writes about how Srila Prabhupada himself had so much faith in Srimad Bhagavatam, and he deeply valued its power. When he arrived at, first of all, he took the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto with him personally to come to America. And then once he came to America, he was praying in this prayer, famous prayer. He writes that, oh, how will they take the message of Srimad Bhagavatam? Your message, Bhagavatam only can help them, like that he says. That is how much faith Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhupada had. The last three verses, Sutta Goswami is paying obeisance to Krishna, and he respects specifically the Vishnu Chakra Thakur emphasizes on this verse that is primarily offering obeisance to Krishna only, because he says, I bow down to the unborn. But unborn can be, Brahma is also referred as unborn sometimes. No, he says somebody is infinite supreme soul. Oh, are you referring to Brahma Jyoti? No. Because whose personal energies affect the creation, maintenance, and distribution of the universe also. He is a supreme consciousness. That means he is glorifying Krishna. He is offering obeisance to Krishna. Now, 68th verse also, he offers obeisance to Krishna, who is the eternal Lord and leader of all other deities, and who is always situated in pure transcendental consciousness like that. So, last verse for today, he is offering, after offering obeisance to Krishna, now he is offering obeisance to spiritual master. So, he says he became attracted. So, he's saying Sukadeva Goswami was actually in Brahmagnana, Brahman's realization stage. But when he heard the Krishna's pastimes, he got so much attraction and taste. That means this bliss that comes from hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and perform devotional service is far superior to Brahman realization. Number 1 point. Number 2 point, he says, because he got so attracted and he got the taste for Srimad Bhagavatam and pastimes of Krishna, he mercifully wanted to share with others also. So that's why he spoke this Srimad Bhagavatam like that, he says. And Jiva Goswami says, direct encounter with Bhagavan is easily attained with Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. That means direct darshan of Krishna. And then he says, Supreme Lord Bhagavan is immediately fixed in the heart of those who desire, who even desire to hear Bhagavatam. Forget about hearing Bhagavatam, but even if we desire to hear Bhagavatam, Supreme Lord gets seated in our heart, is saying, Devaswami. And then why don't everybody desire to hear Srimad Bhagavatam? He says that requires piety to want to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And that desire doesn't arise unless somebody has a piety, is describing like that. Of course, for us, by serving Vaishnavas and by doing devotional service, that Bhakti Sukriti will increase. Then we'll be eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and pay attention in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and reading Srimad Bhagavatam, studying Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. So we'll pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer our obeisances to all the devotees of the Lord. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kupasindubhyevacha paditana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, devotees. Anybody has any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.